guys ever see anything when you're out and about that you know you don't need, yet you have to buy? Chucky Sweatpants. Anyways, guys, what's up? Eli here, back for a new stuff video. All DVDs, mostly horror. Although lately I've been kind of branching out into buying a few non-horror DVDs. I usually try not to, but I mean, come on. Let's not be ridiculous. So we'll start off with the Blu-rays. I guess this is Blu-ray slash new release movies. We'll start with, from 2017, a movie I've been wanting to see apparently for 5 years. Still haven't watched it, but I will. Maybe I'll get to it tonight. Talking about Us by Jordan Peele. I absolutely loved Get Out. I thought that was kind of like a modern day horror classic. I think it could be a minor classic. I think it's going to stand the test of time. I just fucking loved it. I was never real familiar with Jordan Peele's comedy. Like, I never really watched Key and Peele for some odd reason. I wasn't really watching a lot of TV back in those days, and I still don't really. But man, he's a great fucking director. I see so much potential in him. He knocked it out of the park, in my opinion, with that. I've heard some people like this one better. But either way, I think it's going to be good. I'm stoked to watch it. I really want to watch his movie from this year as well. So this next one, this is a new release movie and Blu-ray. As you guys know, I don't buy a ton of stuff on Blu-ray, but, you know, once in a while. Saw this in the theater with my son. We both fucking loved it. He likes Nicolas Cage. I love Nicolas Cage. So we're talking about The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Really fun movie. This is kind of like, it's kind of got a buddy cop feel, but they're not cops. So it does give you that kind of 80s, 90s feel to it. It's a total comedy. I guess you could say like an action comedy, but it's mostly a comedy. It's fantastic. I mean, how brilliant of an idea was... Who got the idea, first of all? Like, let's just make Nicolas Cage play himself in a movie and him somehow be totally okay with it. I think Nicolas Cage seems like he's probably a decent guy in real life. Clearly he has a sense of humor. Clearly he isn't completely full of himself. If you grow up in the 80s and or 90s and you kind of miss, buddy movies like that, check this one out. And if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, it's going to be mandatory, so... And so yeah, I just have those two Blu-rays, but I do have another new movie that just came out. I wanted to see this in the theater, but I didn't think too hard about it. I was just kind of interested, but we're talking about The Black Phone with Ethan Hawke. I did like some of Scott Derrickson's work. I wasn't huge into Doctor Strange, but I think I'm just kind of not a big Marvel movie guy. I did like Sinister, though. I know Sinister was hit and miss for a lot of people. A lot of people loved it, but some thought it was bad. I don't know. I thought it was pretty goddamn good. In fact, I just recently bought a second copy because I couldn't find my original one. I've watched a lot of reviews about this here on YouTube, and I haven't seen any complaints yet, and we're talking about even high-profile reviewers. So anyways, you guys see Black Phone. What do you think about it? I'm stoked to watch it. We'll see how long it takes me to get to it, but I will eventually. Alright, now the rest of these are just regular DVDs. All horror at this point. I did kind of separate them in a category, but we'll see how it goes. So, from 2018, I picked up The Barge People. I did enjoy this despite the fact that there's almost nothing but bad reviews for this one. In fact, I immediately was interested a couple years ago when I heard about it. Then I saw reviews come out, and literally, I think they were all negative. A couple of weeks ago, I saw a trailer for this, and it was one of the most entertaining trailers I had ever seen. It made the movie look really, really fucking cool. I kind of was battling myself in my mind, like, all right, that was an awesome trailer. It's not that hard for, filmmakers to make a good trailer. It's probably, one of those cases where it's an amazing trailer, but bad movie. After watching it, I would say there's a little bit of both. It wasn't great, but I went in with really low expectations. It also wasn't terrible. I did enjoy it. I couldn't really tell if this was a movie that is supposed to look cheap or if that was just bad filmmaking. It's really hard to tell. On the positive side, I really liked The Mask. So this is a British movie. It's basically about these like mutant human fish hybrid people who kill people. There's not a whole lot going on there. It's kind of got a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type twist with the family shit. So again, the characters, the monsters look pretty cool, but they're just really well done masks. They still just look like a dude wearing a really good rubber mask, and that's kind of unfortunate. Like a lot of them could talk, so when they're talking, it just they have like total human looking teeth. It just, I don't know, that part does kind of bother me, but again, the masks are really fucking cool. They're good masks. And there's scenes where like these fish people are like eating humans, but it just looks like they're just like the humans laying down and the guy is just rubbing his mask on the human body, like not even making it look like, but there'll be like fake blood and stuff. So I don't know if that's intentional or bad filmmaking. I really don't. I did check out this website, Raven Banner, which is, I guess, the studio that put this out. It's RLJE Films. But anyways, I went to the Raven Banner website, and it's a pretty cool website. They sell, I think it's a British website, but they sell their movies and stuff for pretty cheap, and it just seemed like a cool little company. But I don't know. I would recommend Barge People, but just don't go in with any kind of expectations. And I also remember reading, because this shit bothers me to no end, I remember reading people talking about how, like, yeah, man, that movie's like total Lovecraft influence. No, stop that with the Lovecraft. I mean, just because a movie has monsters and like fish monsters, yeah, that is kind of reminiscent of The Shadow over Innsmouth, I guess. But The Shadow over Innsmouth, there is so much more to that story than just human fish hybrids. There's so much more to that. So I don't really get much of a Lovecraftian feel. I gotta slap that one down. I don't agree with that. But check it out. Let me know what you think if you do get around to it. Then I picked up All Hallows Eve Part 2 from 2015. I wanted the first one, but I just found this out in the wild. I haven't seen the first one yet, but I have seen this. So it seems like the first one was kind of a cult classic. A lot of people seem to like it, and a lot of people seem to kind of go the other way on this one. Because horror sequels sometimes are done kind of lazy. I don't know if it's directed by the same people and all that stuff. I did enjoy it, though. It is low budget. It is cheap, but it's an anthology movie, by the way. There are some good scenes here, or shorts, or whatever you want to call them. I did like some of them. Obviously, some were better than others. It was a decent watch. So what's noteworthy about All Hallows Eve is Art the Clown. I don't know if you're familiar with Terrifier, and I didn't know about this until after I'd seen Terrifier. But Art the Clown from Terrifier, he actually debuts in the All Hallows Eve first one. So I was kind of hoping maybe he'd make an appearance in part 2, but he doesn't. He's not in this at all, which is kind of a bummer. But it's still got some pretty cool, decent, gruesome shorts here. Worth watching. I still want to track down the first one, though. All right, and sticking with the slashers, you're probably wondering why I didn't have this. I have a lot of the sequels. I just didn't have it yet. We're talking about Scream from 1996. Coffee break. You all know about this one, directed by Wes Craven, starring David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Matthew Lillard, Rosa McGowan, Skeet Ulrich, and Drew Barrymore. It's kind of like a who's who of the early 90s. Saying all those names back to back kind of threw me off. But yeah, I've been wanting to rewatch this for a long time. I haven't seen it in probably like 20 years. I was kind of a latecomer to the Scream fan base. I think it's because in '96, when this came out, I was watching some horror movies, but I wasn't a big fan. So it took me a long time to appreciate this, and I still haven't seen it for a good while. At least, like I said, probably almost, 15 or 20 years. I really, really like Ghostface as a character. I remember not thinking that early on. I thought he was just kind of uninventive and just kind of subpar. But you got to remember, Scream is kind of a slasher parody. But that said, I think nowadays, I actually think Ghostface is a really cool character. In fact, I might like him as a character more than the franchise itself. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this and then kind of going through all the sequels. Then I got this 3-film Halloween collection set, Miramax Classics. It was cool because it was cheap. It's got 3 movies, probably the worst 3 Halloween movies. But what was cool is one of these is actually long out of print and kind of hard to get. So picking this up for $5 or $7 or whatever, well worth it. Starts off with Halloween H2O. I haven't seen that in a good long time. Came out in '98. Directed by Steve Miner, known for the Smallville series, Dawson's Creek, and Friday the 13th Part 2. Starring Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, although she's not in all of them, but Josh Hartnett, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Adam Arkin. I haven't seen this in a good while, but I mean, I really do like the Halloween franchise a lot. I mean, they're all watchable to me. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but whatever. Then it's got Halloween Resurrection. This is from 2002, directed by Rick Rosenthal. I haven't seen this one in a long time. I don't remember too much about it. I'm pretty sure this is the one with Busta Rhymes, Tyra Banks, Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. Stoked to rewatch that one as well. Then we got Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. This came out in '95, directed by Joe Chappelle. Famous for a bunch of crime shows like CSI Miami, The Wire, and he also did the movie Phantoms, which I actually really like Phantoms, starring Donald Pleasance, a young Paul Rudd, and a bunch of other people. Then we got from 2013, Wolf Creek 2. I really enjoyed the first one, even though I haven't seen it in a while. I just kind of decided to pull the trigger on Part 2 for whatever reason. I can't remember why. This came out in 2013, directed by Greg McLean, known for the Belko Experiment, which is another movie, yet another movie that I bought a while back and still haven't watched. And he directed the first Wolf Creek, so... I think what made me get this is I remember reading an article about Wolf Creek. They want to make like a franchise out of this. I can't remember if they just want to keep cranking out movies, or I think they wanted to do a series. I don't remember for sure. And while we're at it, we got a couple of TV series. I think we'll just go ahead and start with this one, because this was a kind of a blast from the past for me. I really liked this as a child. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it came out in 1984. Got the V miniseries. They did another miniseries a couple of years back. I don't know if it was a sequel to this or a prequel or a remake, or I don't know. Directed by Kenneth Johnson, known for Alien Nation, which was another really cool alien show. So this guy had an interest in aliens, I assume. I know I do, and especially back then I did. He also did the original Incredible Hulk series, which is cool, and the $6 Million Man. So kind of a sci-fi, oriented guy, it would seem like, starring Michael Ironside and Robert Englund, actually, a young Robert Englund. This is just a great series. Like I said, I haven't seen this for probably close to 30 fucking years. It's just this really cool, if you like sci-fi and aliens, I mean, this should be definitely your cup of tea. It's about these humanoid aliens that come to Earth, disguised, as basically humanoid looking, but they are actually like a reptilian, like a violent, malevolent reptilian species that's hiding under like human looking skin. Pretty cool stuff. I remember thinking it was really freaky back then. I don't know if it is. I don't know. I'll see how it holds up. And the other TV series I got, I have shown you guys this before, but so I'll just kind of breeze through it. From 2014, we have the first season, I should say, of True Detective, directed by Nick Pizzolatto. Mostly known for his writing on shows like The Killing and The Guilty, which both were shows that I heard were pretty cool. This is just fantastic. If you're a fan of Matthew McConaughey or Woody Harrelson, you have to get this. This is one of, if not the best chunk of performances by either of those guys. Both of them knock it out of the park separately, but together they're just like an unstoppable force. This is basically a crime drama, but with kind of like a folk horror twist. Highly recommend you at least check out season 1. I haven't seen the other seasons. I've heard they're not as good, but dude, if you like anything that I just mentioned, you have to watch this. And next, from 1995, we have Lord of Illusions, directed by Clive Barker, written and directed by, starring Scott Bakula, who is great. I love Scott Bakula. He's so good in this. And Daniel von Bargen, who played Mr. Kruger in Seinfeld. So this is the first time me seeing him outside of Seinfeld. He was great in Seinfeld, by the way. But this is a completely different... this is not like Seinfeld. This is a cool kind of supernatural type horror movie. You know, it's got Clive Barker's fingerprints all over it. It does at times have a little bit of a Hellraiser feel, which is totally okay. I watched a video about this movie. I'd never even heard of it until like a month ago, but I watched a video here on YouTube on one of the some movie channel. I can't remember if it was Marvelous Videos or if it was Joe Blow, one of the two. I really like those, by the way. This is just good. I highly recommend this if you like, you know, supernatural type horror. If you're a fan of Clive Barker, or even just Scott Bakula, or even just a horror movie fan in general, I think you really should check this out if you haven't seen it. So yeah, Lord of Illusions, really enjoyable movie. And another movie I kind of slept on, I still haven't watched it, but I've heard a lot of good things. So we're talking about 2020's Possessor, directed by Brandon Cronenberg, who, yes, David Cronenberg's son. I am a big David Cronenberg fan, so I will admit, when I heard Brandon was directing movies, I was instantly skeptical. I always just assume that, you know, in those situations, it's just people following in the footsteps of their parents just to live, you know, make some bucks off the family name. But I've heard with Brandon Cronenberg, that's not the case. I've heard he is a really good filmmaker, and he really does... he's a true filmmaker at that. He's not just trying to cash in on his dad's name. So this stars Andrea Riseborough, who I've kind of taken a liking to lately, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and this is also, I didn't mention it, but this is Brandon Cronenberg's second feature full-length film. All right, 2016, we had The Eyes of My Mother, directed by Nicholas Pesky. This was his directorial debut also. So, this movie got on my radar because recently I watched that Grudge Untold Chapters movie or whatever I picked up for $1. It was okay, but I remember thinking, like, this is a pretty well-made movie. It might not have the greatest storyline, so I looked into this guy, Nicholas Pesky. This is the movie he did before that, and I've heard this is really, really good. Like, this movie, there's a decent-sized fan base for this movie. So a lot of people are saying, like, you know, when I read reviews of the Grudge Untold Chapters, people are like, what the fuck happened? Like, he did, you know, he did The Eyes of My Mother, and then he turns around and does this garbage. So from what I've read, this is a very gruesome movie. Some people say it's not even a horror movie. I usually don't agree with people like that. I'm sure it is a total horror movie, at least in my opinion. But I've yet to see it, so we'll see. Then I got a couple of full moon pictures. I collect everything I can get from this company. You know, total schlock, you know, they usually put out, but I love it. We'll talk first about Vampire Journals. From 1997, written, directed by Ted Nicolau, known for his work with Full Moon. He's done a bunch for them, especially the Subspecies franchise. And he also did Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, which is a pretty fun one. So I liked Subspecies okay. I picked this up pretty cheap, and I remember texting my buddy John, who's a big Subspecies fan. I was like, what do you think about Vampire Journals? He's like, it's not very good. All right, well, it's got a cool cover. I like vampire shit. I love full moon pictures, stuff. I like to collect it. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Then we got from 2007, Dead Man's Hand, Casino of the Damned, starring Sid Haig and Michael Berryman. However, from what I've heard, those two guys are barely in this movie, so that's never a good sign when you see like two horror icons, you know, all over the case of the movie, and then, you know, when you actually watch it, they just have like cameos. Never, ever a good sign. This is directed by, you know, the man, the myth, the legend, Charles Band himself of Full Moon fame. You know, the guy that started the company. I paid a couple bucks for this. I'm sure I'll get a couple dollars worth of enjoyment, or at least one could hope. Then I just got this random kind of old B horror classic talking about the brain that wouldn't die. I've heard of this in the past, and once seeing this randomly out in the wild, I'm like, yeah, I gotta get that. It came out in 1962, which I don't watch many movies that are that old. I'm usually like 70s, 80s, and beyond. So 62, directed by Joseph Green, who is known for a small handful of movies in the 60s, and then he did stuff in the 80s. So kind of a weird career he's had, I'm sure. It just looks fun. It looks cool. I mean, it looks, for 1962, it looks pretty gruesome. Just going off the pictures on the back, it looks pretty gruesome for 62. But what do I know about 60s movies? Then we have a movie I've wanted to get for a long, long time. It doesn't even make sense that I'm only just getting it. Even I'm baffled. But we're talking about from 1998, Ringu. As you guys might have caught on to by now, I'm a big fan of The Ring, the remake of this movie, the American remake. I've always wanted to see this, always wanted to own it, just never did for whatever reason. So this is directed by Hideo Nakata, who is a very, very prolific Japanese filmmaker. He's done a ton. He's also a writer, does writing for movies. This is the movie he's mostly known for, because this is widely considered quite a cult classic. So happy to have it. I'll get to watching it eventually. Who knows? Maybe next year, or maybe the year after. We'll see. All right, and from 2020 we have Cyst. So I obviously could not resist this one. I saw this in a store. I think it was Walmart. I randomly saw it one day, and of course that caught my eye. The death metal fan in me was like, "What the fuck is this?" I didn't buy it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. You know how that shit goes. Thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and then a couple days later, I stopped by and picked it up, and I got some words to say about it, I guess. I've read some pretty good things about it. It was a fun movie. I don't agree with all the reviews that I read, and I do think it could have been better. The positive reviews, or even the negative ones, pretty much everyone was talking about like how gross this movie is. I mean, it is based off very gross things, really pus-filled cysts, and there's a lot of like cyst bursting and like the liquid like squirting all over this nurse's face. She's like the main character, but the pus, it doesn't even look good. It just looks like kind of like a grayish water. They could have used like fucking vanilla pudding or something and made it like thick and drippy, but it was just literally like, it looked like gray water. It was, I felt like they didn't really try very hard in that matter. This is, from what I can tell, probably all practical effects. The monster kind of goes through a transformation in this movie. He starts off very small, and he's pretty creepy looking when he's small. He's this little dude right there, but then he turns into this big, tentacly, bubbly, kind of Lovecraftian looking monstrosity, and he's just not very scary when he's in his big form, I'll just call it. I don't think he looks very good once he goes through his transformation. Definitely isn't scary. And this movie isn't scary, but it was a bit of fun. So I mean, if you're just looking for fun in a movie that probably could have been better, if you're just looking for something fun to watch and you don't want to, you're not going to take it too serious, I do recommend Cyst. I just think it was not as good as some people were making it out to be. It was directed by Tyler Russell, by the way. I'm not familiar with his work as of yet. And we have from 1993, Fire in the Sky. I saw this probably back in 93 when I was a kid, maybe 93, 94. And this movie terrified me. But I also, was 11 or 12 years old, hadn't seen much for horror. I was a big X-Files fan, so I think that's why this resonated with me so well. I'm really excited to see if this movie holds up, because I haven't seen it ever since. I really liked it. This is basically, if you've seen it, If not, you've probably already guessed. This is an alien abduction movie. Well, it says so right on the cover. Yeah, I just remember it being really scary, so super stoked to rewatch that. Got a few left. This movie I've been wanting to pick up for a good while. I never see it out in the wild, so I don't know if I'd call it a rare movie. It is maybe a little bit on the rare side, but we're talking about 1992's Dust Devil. directed by Richard Stanley, who I'm only kind of become familiar with Richard Stanley over the last maybe 4 or 5 years. I kind of became immediately interested in his work, and I really want to pick up everything that he's done. Yes, I know he has been called out publicly lately for being an abusive asshole, but I don't know, man. I think he's gonna go to court for this shit. But anyways, this is a pretty cool movie. I don't know if I like it as much as Hardware, which is one of the other movies he's done. But it was still pretty enjoyable. It's basically about this kind of shape-shifting demon. This is shot in Africa. Definitely a good movie. I should also let it be known that this is like the worst version of this movie. There are other versions that are much better. There's like a 5-disc version, I think. Basically what happened is Richard Stanley is a pretty complex, non-compromising director. He's one of those true artists that when he makes something, it's his creation and he doesn't want anyone fucking with it. But the studio, Miramax, they hated the movie that he made, and they basically took his version and chopped a bunch of stuff out. I think they took out like 20 minutes worth of shit. And I've heard they took out literally the most interesting parts of the movie, or at least some of them. So I've heard if you can get your hands on the uncut version, it's pretty awesome. I've heard this is probably the one you want to avoid, but I don't know. I picked it up for a couple of bucks, and I'm glad to at least having seen it. I would like to pick up that 5-disc version though. And the last two I have are actually non-horror. So from 1980 we have Cruising, directed by William Friedkin, who, of course, of The Exorcist fame. I'm not familiar with anything he's done, aside from The Exorcist, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I don't know if this is considered a horror movie. I think it's more considered a dark drama or a thriller. I think thriller is probably the genre you'd put this in. So obviously starring a very young Al Pacino, 1980. This is also starring Bob Hoskins. This is also starring Paul Sorvino, based on the novel by Gerald Walker. It's basically about Al Pacino's a rookie cop, and he is trying to find this serial killer, and he's infiltrating like S&M type joints and trying to lure this killer out. So definitely sounds like a storyline that that I would appreciate. So really stoked to watch that. I love these Arrow releases. I think we all do. So the inside, of course, it has the reversible cover, but the reversible cover not too much different than the front. Same color schemes and everything. I like this one better. And then from Anchor Bay, I got this cool. I think I've heard of this movie, but I definitely haven't seen it. From 1980, also just like Cruising, we got The Long Good Friday. This is like a mob movie, which I've been in the mood for mob movies lately. I loved watching them growing up, but admittedly, I only kind of have scratched the surface with like the genre classics, the Casino, the Godfather trilogy, Goodfellas, which is, my all-time favorite. So this is starring Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren, directed by John McKenzie. Anchor Bay did a really good job on this release, by the way. Pretty cool. I'm assuming this is the movie poster, which is awesome. Yeah, stoked to watch this. I think I'm going to watch Goodfellas soon, too. I mean, I have to watch that movie at least every couple of years. It's just, it's one of the few examples I can make of just a perfect movie. So. Anyways, guys, that's it. That was a whole bunch of movies I ran through. Let me know what you think. Have you seen any of these? Do you like some of them? Do you hate some of them? Let's talk movies, huh? So thanks for stopping by. As always, Louis says hello, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.